Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. If they're not feeding you, financing you, or freeing you, why is your name still in their mouth? Let that marinate. Because here's the brutal truth. You are the main character in conversations you weren't even invited to. The obsession is real. The same people who acted like you were invisible are now hosting full-blown roundtables about your life, and you don't even show up. But here's where it gets deep. According to behavioral psychology, people only gossip about others who subconsciously intimidate or inspire them. Translation: you're not just relevant, you're spiritually unavoidable. Chosen, one, you didn't ask for the spotlight. You became the spotlight. Your presence is not neutral, it's disruptive. You don't walk into rooms, you reconfigure the atmosphere. And the ones who haven't done the inner work, they feel it in their bones. So instead of healing, they start talking. And let's be real. If a fly keeps circling the same thing over and over again, it's not curiosity, it's infestation. Which begs the question, why are they so infested with you? Sit tight. Because by the time this is over, you won't just understand why you're the hot topic. You'll understand why you always will be. Let's get into it. Number one, you trigger the shadows they've spent a lifetime burying. You're not being talked about because you did something wrong. You're being talked about because who you are naturally exposes what other people have spent years trying to hide. The moment you walk into a room, there's a shift. Not because you're loud, flashy, or trying to take up space, but because your energy hits different. It's raw, it's real, and it doesn't play along with the masks. And that alone makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because most people have built their entire lives around pretending to be happy, pretending to be kind, pretending to be confident, and then here you come, just being. What they don't realize is that the discomfort they feel when you're around isn't about you, it's about them. You make them feel things they've been trying to suppress. You walk with truth in your spirit, and that truth activates the lies they tell themselves. You don't even have to say a word. Just existing in their presence starts peeling back the layers they've carefully constructed. It exposes the jealousy they've denied, the regret they've buried, the insecurities they've camouflaged. That's why they talk. That's why they whisper. That's why your name stays on their tongue, because you remind them of everything they're not willing to face. And the wild part is, you're not doing anything on purpose. You're not trying to trigger anybody, you're just showing up. But chosen ones have that effect. Your spirit is confrontational without being combative. It speaks volumes without speaking at all. You don't attack their wounds, but your presence reveals that they exist. And when someone isn't ready to heal, their first instinct is to defend. And when they can't defend with truth, they attack with gossip. That's why you're the hot topic, because you didn't expose their secrets. Your energy simply reminded them that they have some. Number two, you're the walking proof that excuses are lies. People don't like to admit this out loud, but deep down, many of them need to believe success is only possible under certain conditions, like having connections, money, support, or the perfect background. It gives them a reason to stay stuck. It helps them sleep at night. Because if success is only for the privileged or the lucky, then they don't have to confront the fact that they've been playing small, making excuses and wasting time. But then someone like you comes along, someone who had none of those so-called advantages, and still managed to rise. And now they're uncomfortable. You didn't wait for the perfect moment. You didn't wait for applause or a safety net. You just moved. You broke through things that should have broken you. You built your life while bleeding, healed without an audience, and kept walking when most people would have quit. That kind of resilience scares people. It shatters their excuses. It puts a mirror in their face and says, if I did it without all that, what's your excuse? And that's not a question they want to answer. So they flip the script. They try to make it seem like you must have cheated, lied, faked it, or got lucky, because accepting that you're the real deal means facing the reality that they're not putting in the work. That's why they talk. That's why they watch you so closely. They're not just observing, they're studying, looking for cracks, trying to find the flaw, hoping to uncover something that proves you're not really who you say you are. Because if they can convince themselves that your elevation isn't legitimate, they can keep avoiding their own growth. The truth is, you're not just a person to them, you're a disruption. You're living proof that transformation is possible without permission. You didn't follow their formula, and now they have to sit with the fact that their formula never worked in the first place. Number 3, they study you because you're an instruction manual for a reality they can't access. You don't realize it, but people are studying you like a secret manual to a life they've never been able to access. You're not living by the book they were handed, and that alone makes you fascinating. You speak differently, move differently, react differently. You carry a kind of inner knowing that can't be explained by education, money, or social circles. It's spiritual, it's ancient, and it confuses people who've been trained to only trust what they can measure and predict. So instead of asking you how you got that way, they observe you from a distance, in silence, or worse, through gossip. They're watching your healing process, your choices, your silence, your comebacks, your glow-ups. And even when they don't admit it, they're learning from you. You're showing them a version of strength that doesn't rely on control, a type of confidence that doesn't need an audience, a kind of success that wasn't handed out. It was birthed in the dark, in the unseen, in the quiet hours when you chose growth over comfort. You're teaching people that you don't need to be perfect to be powerful, and that healing isn't a straight line. It's a sacred spiral. They're not watching because they're curious. They're watching because deep down they know you've tapped into something real, something they crave but can't duplicate. That's why it bothers them. That's why they talk. They can't decode your steps, so they label them. They can't trace your source, so they question your motives. But what they really want is the peace you carry, the clarity, the conviction, the connection. You're not showing them how to follow trends. You're showing them how to follow spirit. And that can't be copied, only cultivated. That's what makes you the topic. You're not just living, you're awakening people, and they don't even realize it's happening. Number 4, your energy disturbs systems built on manipulation. You disrupt things just by being real, and a lot of people don't know how to handle that. Most social spaces, whether it's at work, in families, in church, or online, are built on quiet agreements. We'll all pretend, we'll all compete, we'll all play nice, and no one will call out the nonsense. But you didn't sign that contract. You walk in without needing to dominate or prove yourself, and somehow that threatens the ones who are addicted to control. You don't chase validation, you don't fake humility, and you're not scared to stand alone. That energy, it short-circuits manipulation. You see through things, and people can feel that. You don't clap for dysfunction just because everyone else is clapping. You don't laugh at fake jokes or play the politics game to get ahead. And when you don't engage in those little power rituals, the flattery, the gossip, the subtle intimidation, people lose their grip. You're messing with their structure. You're not following the unwritten rules. And in spaces built on ego and illusion, authenticity becomes a threat. They start saying you're too much, too distant, too intense, or not a team player. But the truth is, your presence makes it hard for others to keep performing. You don't have to expose anything. Your energy exposes it for you. So instead of evolving, they try to turn you into a cautionary tale. Watch out for them, they say. They think they're better than everyone. But that's projection. What they really mean is, they won't let us manipulate them, so stay away. It's not that you're trying to take over. It's that your refusal to be controlled makes them feel powerless. You're not here to play the game. You're here to break the illusion that the game ever mattered. That's why they talk. That's why they twist the story. Because deep down they know you're proof that the entire system can be bypassed. And that's what really scares them. Number 5, they talk because they feel powerless to control you. People start talking when they realize they have no power over you. You can't be guilt-tripped, flattered into submission, scared into silence, or bought with attention, and that drives certain people mad. Most folks are used to being able to influence others with a look, a compliment, a rumor, or even silence. But when they try that with you, it falls flat. You don't react the way they expect. You don't chase them for approval or beg to be accepted. And that makes them feel powerless, something their ego can't handle. When someone can't control you emotionally, they'll start looking for another way to handle you. And that usually means gossip. Gossip is cheap control. It's a way of rewriting the narrative so they feel like they're still in charge of the story. If they can't control your mind, they'll try to control how others see you. They'll twist your confidence into arrogance, your boundaries into bitterness, your independence into coldness. It's not because those things are true, it's because they lost their grip on you and don't know what else to do. They need to believe they still have power over you, even if it's indirect, so they plant little seeds of doubt in other people's minds, hoping it will isolate you or dim your light. But all it really does is expose how fragile they are behind that image they've built. They're not as confident as they pretend to be. You proved that. Because if they were truly unbothered, they wouldn't need to talk about you at all. You're not the problem. You're just the reminder that real power can't be bought or bullied, and that's what eats them alive. You're not resisting their manipulation, you're unreachable by it. And once they realize that, talking becomes their last resort. Not because they care, but because they lost. Number 6, your calm is misread as arrogance, because they can't fathom peace without pretending. When you're genuinely at peace with yourself, you stop trying to perform for the world, and that confuses people who've only ever felt valuable when they're performing. Your calm, your quiet confidence, your refusal to over-explain or overextend, it unsettles them. Because in their reality, peace is something that has to be earned through constant approval, agreement, and applause. So when you show up without needing any of that, they don't know what to make of you. They start reading your energy all wrong. To them, your calm becomes arrogance. Your silence must mean you think you're better. Your boundaries must mean you're cold. They can't comprehend that your stillness isn't about superiority, it's about self-possession. You're not trying to be above anyone, you're just not trying to be anything other than yourself. But to someone who's spent years curating a personality just to feel accepted, that kind of authenticity feels like an insult. What they don't realize is you used to play that game too. You know what it's like to bend, shrink, perform, and pretend just to keep the peace or earn love. But you outgrew it. You faced your fears, healed your wounds, and found peace that isn't dependent on performance. And now that you've found that level of inner stillness, you're not willing to trade it for anyone's approval. Not anymore. But the ones still trapped in that old mindset don't understand that. They think you're cold because you don't need their validation. They think you're detached because you don't argue or prove yourself. They think you're aloof because you're no longer emotionally entangled in every storm around you. The truth is you're free, but freedom looks like arrogance to those who are still in chains. And that's why they talk, because deep down your calm reminds them that they're tired of pretending, but they're not ready to stop. And number 7, you're proof that divine favor can't be earned, it's recognized. You're not supposed to have what you have, at least not according to their rules. You didn't flatter the right people, blend in with the crowd, or suffer loud enough to get their approval. You didn't follow the script, and yet, here you are, walking in a kind of favor and grace that can't be explained, and that's what makes people mad. Because in their world, favor is supposed to be earned through effort, struggle, or strategic alignment. But with you, it just is. You didn't force it, you didn't fake it, and you didn't bow to get it. It's on you because it was always on you. That's the kind of thing ego-driven people can't stand. They spent their lives trying to earn what you carry naturally. They played the politics, they learned how to fit in. They rehearsed how to sound deep or act humble, all to access a fraction of what flows through you effortlessly. And when they see that their rituals didn't give them what your being does, they start to unravel. Because your existence alone proves that divine favor doesn't care about performance. It recognizes alignment. You didn't win because you suffered more. You didn't get picked because you sold a sob story. You were chosen because you carry a calling that can't be manufactured. And they can't imitate that. So they try to discredit it. They try to convince others you're fake, arrogant, or manipulative. Because if people start recognizing the real in you, they'll stop clapping for the performance in them. What they don't understand is this. You never needed their stage, their title, or their rules. You were marked long before any of them had a say, and that's why you're the target. Not because you did something wrong, but because you remind them that divine favor doesn't bow to human politics, it chooses. And it chose you. Number 8, they're addicted to your frequency, even when they claim to hate you. You might hear them say they dislike you, but their energy tells a different story. Like a jolt of caffeine, your presence electrifies something inside them, something they can't quite shake. It stirs up feelings they don't want to face, and that makes them uneasy. You're tapping into a frequency that shakes their foundation, And whether they admit it or not, they're hooked. They might try to push you away with harsh words or gossip, but behind the scenes your vibe keeps pulling at them. It's like a soundtrack they can't turn off. They don't hate you. They're addicted to the way you make them feel alive and uncomfortable at the same time. Your energy disrupts their autopilot existence. It forces them to confront their own dissatisfaction, their buried desires, or the parts of themselves they've ignored. That tension isn't easy to handle, so instead of acknowledging it, they lash out. The irritation is just a surface reaction to a deeper craving they don't understand. They talk about you constantly because their spirit hasn't stopped digesting what you represent, a kind of truth and freedom that feels both threatening and magnetic. Your frequency is a mirror they can't put down. It reflects what they wish they could be, but aren't brave enough to chase. So they wrestle with you in their minds, trying to make sense of why you rattle them so much. This obsession is their unconscious way of engaging with your power. You've become a puzzle that challenges their comfort zones, and until they figure out how to integrate what you bring, your name will keep echoing in their conversations. In reality, being the subject of their fixation means you're doing something right. You're stirring the pot, breaking their routine and reminding them there's more to life than their limited scripts. That's why they can't quit talking about you, even if they say they want to. Number 9, your name is their coping mechanism. When people fixate on you, it's rarely about you at all. Your name becomes their safe distraction from the emptiness they're really feeling inside. Instead of confronting their own fears, failures, or regrets, they latch onto your story, every detail, every mistake, every triumph, as a way to fill the silence in their own lives. It's easier to dissect your flaws than to sit with the discomfort of their own. By talking about you, they avoid looking in the mirror. You become a living soap opera for them, a constant mental show that keeps their minds busy and emotions stirred without risking real vulnerability. They replay your past decisions like a TV rerun, hoping to find a reason you're less than perfect, but really, they're just trying to convince themselves that their struggles are bigger or more justified. When they gossip about your moves or your reputation, they're creating a narrative where you are the problem, because admitting they're stuck or unhappy in their own lives is too painful. You didn't ask to be their crutch, but your existence became a convenient escape hatch from their own discomfort. They don't realize how much energy they pour into holding you up in their minds just to keep from falling into their own shadows. The more they focus on your story, the less they have to deal with their own. It's brutal, but it's also revealing. Their obsession with you is a mirror reflecting their inability to face their truth. And that's why your name keeps coming up in conversations. It's not about who you are. It's about what you represent, a spotlight on their unwillingness to grow. Until they turn that spotlight inward, they'll keep using you to avoid the hard work of healing themselves. Number 10, you're the unwritten chapter in their story. They wish they had the courage to live. Many people secretly envy the path you're walking because it's the one they dreamed of but never dared to take. You took risks they only whispered about in private, faced truths they buried deep, and healed wounds they refused to acknowledge. Your life is the bold, unwritten chapter they wish they had the courage to write for themselves. Watching you live authentically, speaking your truth without fear, shedding what no longer serves, and rising after every fall, reminds them of their own chains. But instead of celebrating your bravery, they try to rewrite your story for you. When they spread rumors or distort your actions, it's not just spite. It's their way of coping with the pain of their own regrets. They want to believe that you're flawed or misguided because it makes their own inaction feel less like failure. If you're imperfect or less than, then their decision to stay stuck somehow feels justified. You become the living proof of what they gave up on, and that unsettles them. They watch your chapters unfold with a mixture of awe and resentment because deep down, they wish they'd dared to author their own lives as boldly as you have. But instead of turning that admiration into motivation, they choose bitterness, trying to chip away at your legacy with whispers and half-truths. Your journey shines a light on their own fears and limitations, and that's uncomfortable. It's easier to gossip about your life than to face the blank pages they left untouched. So they try to edit your story from the sidelines, hoping to dull the impact of your courage. But no matter how loud they talk, they can't erase the truth. You're living the story they wished they had the guts to tell. Number 11. You broke the contract of silence they all agreed to. Most people live their lives within a quiet, invisible contract, a pact that says, we won't push too hard, question too much, or rock the boat. It's the unspoken rule that keeps things comfortable, even if that comfort comes with pain or ignorance. They settle for surface-level peace, sticking to old patterns and passing down the same struggles from one generation to the next. This contract is about keeping the status quo, avoiding disruption and maintaining control, even if it means sacrificing growth or truth. You broke that contract. You refused to stay silent about what needed to be exposed. You questioned what everyone else was too afraid to challenge. You confronted the lies, healed the wounds, and dared to change the script. That kind of rebellion shakes foundations, and it terrifies those who benefit from the quiet compliance. It's not that you did something wrong, it's that you didn't comply. Your refusal to keep the peace at the expense of truth means you're a threat to their comfort zone. You remind them that their safety nets are just illusions and that real freedom comes with discomfort and courage. Instead of seeing your actions as bravery, they label you as trouble, a rebel, or a threat. They lash out because their world depends on everyone playing along with the script they wrote long ago. They attack because your choices highlight their own fear and complacency. You didn't break the rules, you shattered their silence, and that's why you're the target. You're proof that growth demands breaking contracts, and real change begins when someone refuses to stay quiet any longer. Number 12. Your light doesn't ask for permission, and that offends people living in pretend humility. You don't wait for anyone's approval before shining. Your light bursts forth naturally because you know who you are and what you're meant to do. You carry your gifts openly, unapologetically, and with a quiet certainty that can't be taught or faked. That kind of self-awareness, walking fully in your truth without hesitation, is powerful, and it rattles those who've been conditioned to shrink themselves to make others comfortable. There are people who've been raised believing that humility means hiding your talents, dimming your shine, or playing small to avoid upsetting the status quo. For them, stepping into the spotlight feels like arrogance because it challenges the rules they've accepted. When you confidently own your calling and gifts, it disrupts their carefully constructed world where modesty is a mask for insecurity and self-doubt. Your confidence is a mirror they don't want to look into. It exposes their fear of being seen and their struggle with accepting their own worth. So instead of celebrating your authenticity, they label it as pride or ego. But their judgment says more about their own limitations than it does about you. Your light isn't arrogant, it's necessary. It's a beacon that demands truth and courage in a world full of pretenses. You don't ask permission to be brilliant because you understand that your purpose doesn't need anyone's validation. That independence makes you a threat to those clinging to pretend humility as a way to keep themselves small and safe. They'd rather see you dimmed than risk confronting their own shadows. But your light keeps shining, unfiltered and fierce, because it was never meant to be hidden. And that's exactly why it offends them. Number 13, they can't believe you're still standing, so they assume it must be a lie. They've seen the worst thrown at you, the rumors, the betrayals, the endless battles that would have broken most people. Your name has been dragged through every mud puddle they could find, your spirit tested in ways that would crush anyone without your strength. And yet here you are, still standing, still thriving, still rising. That stubborn survival messes with their minds because it doesn't fit their story. If you were truly real, truly authentic, truly chosen, then it means their attacks failed. And that means there's something bigger at play, divine justice. That's the hard pill they refuse to swallow. They want to believe that the world is unfair, that people like you don't win, that good doesn't really get rewarded. So the only way for them to protect their shaky worldview is to assume you're faking it. They tell themselves you're putting on a show, that your strength is a mask, that your success is luck or manipulation. It's easier to believe a lie than to accept the truth that you are a living proof of something far greater than human schemes. Your resilience threatens their sense of control because it means their actions didn't have the final say. Their cruelty didn't silence you. Their attempts to break you only made you stronger. and that shakes their very foundation. By assuming you're lying, they avoid confronting their own guilt, their own failures, and the reality that divine justice does exist, and it's working in your favor. Your survival is a testament that truth, faith, and resilience aren't just words. They're forces that can't be denied. And that scares them more than anything. Number 14, you're the first proof in their lives that God is not religious. He's personal. You're the living contradiction to everything they've been taught about God. You didn't walk their expected path, recite their prescribed prayers, or check all the boxes they think define faith. Yet here you are, undeniably chosen, unmistakably favored, and clearly marked by a power they can't explain within their narrow rules. That fact alone shatters their entire belief system. They've been told that closeness to God comes wrapped in rituals, titles, and institutions. But your life is proof that divine connection doesn't live in those external things. It's personal, direct, and often messy. You don't fit their neat categories, and that confuses and threatens them. They don't know how to handle someone who embodies a relationship with the divine that's raw and authentic, not packaged or performative. Because they can't process this reality, they react with fear, skepticism, or gossip. It's easier for them to talk about you than to question their own rigid beliefs and face the possibility that they've been limiting their own spiritual experience. Your existence demands they reconsider everything, not just about you, but about the nature of God itself. Your connection isn't dependent on conformity or tradition. It's proof that God moves beyond human constructs and shows up in ways no one can predict or control. For some, that's liberating. For others, it's too much to handle. So instead of evolving, they try to silence you or rewrite your story to fit their limited worldview. You're a living challenge to their beliefs, a testament that God's favor isn't reserved for those who check the right boxes, but for those who carry truth in their hearts. And that truth is often too heavy for those stuck in old systems to bear. In the end, being the chosen one isn't about fitting into someone else's story. It's about rewriting the rules altogether. You're not just a topic in conversations, you're a force shaking the very foundations of outdated beliefs, false comforts, and empty traditions. Your presence exposes truths others fear to face, and your journey embodies a power that transcends human understanding. The resistance, the whispers, and the judgments only prove one thing. You are living proof that real change is possible, that divine favor doesn't follow the expected path, and that authenticity will always disrupt the status quo. So hold your head high. Your light doesn't need permission to shine. Your story can't be edited by those afraid to write their own. And your truth is the legacy that will inspire generations yet to come. The world may try to contain you, but you were born to break free. And that is why you will always be the hot topic worth talking about. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button to join the community where truth, courage, and real growth thrive. Like the video, if it sparked something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And drop a comment below to tell us your story or your thoughts. Your voice matters here, and together we're building something powerful. Stay bold, stay authentic, and keep shining because the world needs exactly who you are.